Hey guys, it's Simon. Today's video is going to be really special because I'm going to be teaching you the differences between the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy, and what it is that they do with their money on payday. Sound interested? Okay, let's get started. One thing that you need to understand is that you can either make poor decisions, mediocre decisions, or you can make really good decisions with the money that you earn. And that in turn is going to give you the results, not only short term, but long term. Unfortunately, a lot of people make very poor decisions with their money, and that's why they end up being poor. Now, if you look at the majority of people, you would think that a good size of that portion would probably figure it out by the time that they get into their retirement years, right? Like 65 or something like that. Well, I want you to take a look at this next slide. If you were to look at where most people end up, shockingly, at age 65, 54% of people are broke. Now imagine working your entire life and half of the people that do that end up being broke at 65. Right? Poor decisions. 36% are still working. Now think of that. 36 out of 100 people are still working. Do you think all 36 are doing it because they just need something else to do? No. A lot of them are doing it because they have to, because they haven't saved enough money. Okay, they're not broke, and they're not just necessarily dependent on somebody else, but they certainly haven't put aside enough money. They haven't made enough good decisions, right? This is why it's so important to become financially educated, and that's what you do here at this site. 5% don't even make it to 65, but only 4%, or 4 out of 100 people, are financially independent or secure in their later years. Just 4 out of 100. But more shockingly is that only 1% ends up being wealthy. Now imagine that. Like, you work your entire life, most people are either still working or broke, and only 5 out of 100 have figured it out financially. That blew me away. And actually, it's a big motivator for me to be able to talk to you, to be able to encourage you to get financially educated. So let's keep the process going here. You need to understand some basic money terms in order to make the right decisions in your life. Money terms like an income statement. Well, what is an income statement? It basically shows you two things: the income that comes in and the expenses of money that goes out. You also need to understand what a balance sheet is. Balance sheet shows you either assets or liabilities. I'm going to explain the difference of these in a little bit more detail here in the next couple of slides. Income is money that you bring in, money that goes into your pocket. Paychecks, dividends from stocks, interest, rents, royalties, profits. These are all examples of income, money that comes in. Expenses is money that you spend or money that goes out. So things like taxes, if you're an employee, this is like your biggest expense. Your mortgage or your rent, your cell phone bills, your car bills, your car is an expense. Clothes that you buy. These are all things that cost you money. So money is leaving your pocket. Now, an asset is something that pays you, that puts money into your pocket. So stocks, bonds, real estate, or a business is an example of an asset that pays you. A liability is something that costs you. Your house is a liability. A car is a liability. A boat is a liability. Appliances are liabilities. Now, I may have kind of thrown something in there that you kind of went, oh, wait a second, a house is a liability? Yes, actually is a liability. Under this definition, a liability is something that costs you money. My house costs me money. But when I have a rental property, that rental property could be the same type of house, but it has income, so it is an asset because it puts money into my pocket. You see the difference? Liabilities cost you, and assets pay you. So when is a house an asset? When it pays you money, like a rental property. A house is also an asset to whom? The bank or your mortgage broker, because it's their asset because you're paying them mortgage payments. You with me? Okay, let's go on. So what is it that the poor do on payday with their money? Well, they buy stuff. They spend it on things that are inexpensive, that people, that they don't really need these things, but they just spend it on pretty much everything that they get their hands on. So you might be spending all your money on video games, on DVDs, on electronics, or all these different things, but that's going to make you poor because you're not going to have any money left, but you've just kind of bought these things that certainly aren't assets that put money back into your pocket. I mean, it could be. I mean, some of these electronics, if you find a way to make some money from it, then they would be an asset. But for the most part, they're just liabilities and they're expenses. Now, this is kind of the way it looks like if you're looking at it from a balance sheet and an income statement. So your income comes in, and if you're on welfare, you have very little income. If you have a job, probably very little income from your job too. But your income goes straight out the expense column by way of like taxes that you pay or your rent or your living costs, and then your income is gone. Like no more. You're poor. Nothing left. Now with the middle class, what they do is they usually buy liabilities. So they'll be making some more money, and they'll go and they'll buy a car, they'll go and buy a boat or a house, or they'll take vacations, or they'll start to accumulate some credit card debt because they're buying more liabilities. Let's look at their cash flow pattern. So income comes in, and maybe a higher income in the middle class. So you have your job or maybe your small business that has income coming in, but you take that income and you buy liabilities. That's what the middle class does. But then they have bank loans, they have mortgage loans, they have credit cards, they have all these debts because they buy, bigger houses or bigger, fancier cars or motorcycles, or they buy boats or all these different things. They buy these things, liabilities, which cost them money every single month, and then their income is gone. So as you can see, the expenses are the taxes, the rent, the mortgage costs, the living expenses. So what's different about the poor and the middle class from the wealthy? Well, the wealthy invest their money into assets like investments, stocks, bonds, real estate. They invest in businesses. They invest in their education as well, because education is an asset, which is something that can pay you, right? Because remember, that was the definition of an asset, something that pays you. If you have a skill set and you can learn how to convert that into income, then your education is an asset. Let's take a look at their cash flow pattern. So their income comes in mainly from the assets they have. So they may have residual income, meaning income that continues to flow whether they work or not from their businesses. They may have real estate income, like rental properties. Chances are, if you've ever been a student when you're growing up and you're going to college or university, you are paying rent to somebody. Well, that landlord, the house that you're living in or the apartment that you're living in, that's his asset, but it's your expense. So what you want to do to become wealthy is find other assets that are going to continually pay you. So income comes in from purchasing those assets, but what you do with that income is you go and you buy more assets that create more income, to buy more assets, to buy more income, etc., etc., etc. Make sense? Now, who are they? The poor, the middle class, and the wealthy. The poor buy stuff. They're usually people who have a job, or they're an employee, or they're jobless and they're collecting welfare. The middle class, they buy liabilities. Okay, they're usually employees or maybe self-employed. They get a bigger income, they get bigger and bigger liabilities and a bigger expense, flow out of their money. The wealthy buy assets. Wealthy people are usually self-employed, they're usually business owners, and they're usually investors. Now, one thing that you need to take away from this first little section of this video is that you're never going to become wealthy if you're working at a job or you're being an employee. It's simply way too difficult and takes way too much time to ever accumulate any good assets for you that are going to pay you consistently when you're working as an employee. So where I'm going with this is going to make sense when I introduce you to the cash flow quadrant. In order to get to where it is that you want to go, so if you want to become financially independent, or one of the four, or the financially independent, or the 1% who becomes wealthy, you need to understand where it is that you are first. More importantly, you need to understand where your income is coming from, okay? So I mentioned the cash flow quadrant. The cash flow quadrant is a book by Robert Kiyosaki, a very famous financial educator, and he's probably very responsible for a lot of the stuff and the information that I teach and that I live by and I'm sharing with you today. Robert Kiyosaki wrote this book probably in around 2002, I think. Fantastic book, and it talks about where our cash comes from and the differences between the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy and how they got that way. So let's take a look at this a little bit further. The cash flow quadrant breaks up how we make money into 4 different quadrants. The top left one, as you can see there, is an E, as an employee, where you have a job. And it's not you that gets paid, but it's actually the position that gets paid. For example, have you ever worked alongside somebody and you both were getting paid the same, however you did a lot more than the other person, or maybe they did a lot more than you, but you both made the same amount of money, and that's because the position gets paid and not the person. So sometimes people get really frustrated by that situation. They go, you know what, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to find myself a job that I can basically be my own boss. But really what they do is they're owning a job by becoming self-employed. So who are self-employed people? Doctors, lawyers, accountants, real estate agents, anybody that makes a commission, they're usually self-employed. Now people go into the self-employed column usually because they want to control their income, because if they work harder, they should be able to make some more money. But what happens for a lot of these people is they start to get into this rat race and this perpetual, I need to work harder so I can make more money, so I can go on more vacations or buy more liabilities or do whatever it is that I need to do with my income, but they're into this circle. If you try to ask somebody who's self-employed to go and take a week off, they'll probably be really stressed out on the time that they go and take that time off because they're not making any income. Because when they're not working, they're not earning any income. Right? So what you want to do is you want to switch over to the right side of the quadrant where you become either a B or a business owner. A business owner owns a system, okay, and has people working for you, right? So think of McDonald's. I got buddy old Ronald McDonald up there in the corner, and you can see Ronald because that's signifying McDonald's. Now Ray Kroc is the founder of McDonald's. Now Ray Kroc was a very, very smart guy. He basically said, how can we sell hamburgers all over the United States when they first got started, and it's not very good food, but how can we sell more hamburgers than anybody else out there? What they did is they created a business system, later to be called a franchise, or a business in a box. So it is a system that people plug into, and as long as you follow the system, it should work for you. That's very different than starting a traditional business, because a traditional business, there's not necessarily a very high rate of success for a lot of people. I mean, 9 out of 10 businesses are belly up by the end of the 5th year. Franchises have a much higher probability of success because as long as you follow what it is that they teach you, you should be successful. So people who are wealthy own business systems, and what we talk about on the website being network marketing, that is a business system, just like a franchise is a business system. This is where you're going to get into the realm of being able to make the type of income that's going to allow you to be wealthy down the road. Now the final quadrant is the I, or the investor. And this is where you have money working for you. So imagine if you had $1 million in the bank giving you 10% interest every single year. So you got $1 million in the bank, and every single year you get paid $100,000 from the interest on that money. That is money working for you. As a B, above, you have people working for you because you have a system, but in the I quadrant, your money is actually working for you. Now, everyone wants to move over to this quadrant as quickly as possible, and for a lot of people, what they do is they start off as an employee, they become self-employed, they move up to the business quadrant, and they work themselves into an investor long term. What I'm encouraging you to do is as quickly as possible get over to that B quadrant so you can start accumulating a higher level of income so you can have more money to invest and then become an investor faster. That is our whole model here at richgrads.com. Now, to be a rich grad, you need to continually educate yourself in the business and investing quadrant. Okay, the B and the I. Those are the quadrants that you want to spend most of your time getting educated on, because that is going to allow you to become financially free, become one of the 5 out of 100 that either are financially independent or they're wealthy in their later years. Now, once you have the knowledge, you can seize opportunities when they come along because you can recognize them. Opportunities come in front of you probably on a daily basis, but unless you are educated and learn how to recognize those opportunities when they present themselves, you'll probably just let them slip by. Now, opportunities probably come by you consistently, but what you need to do is open your eyes so you can see them, so you can seize the moment and get involved, because those are the types of opportunities that are going to really change your life. and allow you to move from the left quadrant to the right side of the quadrant at a much, much faster rate. The second thing that you need to do is you need to become an entrepreneur as quickly as possible. Okay? On the right side of the quadrant, as an entrepreneur, you gain time freedom and you gain financial freedom. So wherever it is that you're earning your income now, if you're an employee or if you're self-employed or if you have a traditional business, you need to become an entrepreneur as quickly as possible, because when you are an entrepreneur, you really can control your income. Now, the important thing is that you have a business as an entrepreneur that is a system. So chances are you can't afford to have a franchise at this point in your life. But that's why we teach the importance of understanding how network marketing is probably the best system out there for young adults right now to get involved in. Now, if this is the first video that you've stumbled across somehow of richgrads.com, head on over to the blog and learn about what network marketing is, how it works, and what it can mean to you. That's my word of encouragement. Now, if you've liked this video, if you've gotten some value out of it, let me know. Shoot me a comment in the comment section below, depending on where you're watching this video. Hit me up back on the website at richgrads.com. And if you like this video, share it. Please do. Get it out there. More people need to be financially educated so they end up being, at their later years, financially stable and not one of the 95% who are either still working or broke. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Simon Prentice. I wish you a prosperous future, and hopefully I'll see you around in the blog. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Ciao.